It's not every day that you see a coach call out his staff in public like this, especially someone like John Harbaugh. But this week, he went all in. And not just once. 2 different interviews. 2 very different tones. And somehow, both missed the mark. Because if there was ever a moment to hold both units accountable, offense and defense, this was it. But instead, Harbaugh delivered a lopsided message that left a lot of Ravens fans scratching their heads. Let's start with Todd Monken. After a tough loss to the Chiefs, it didn't take long for fingers to be pointed at the offensive play calling. And sure, some of that criticism is fair. There were head-scratching decisions on key downs. You're talking about 3rd and short, 4th and short, moments where most fans and probably most analysts would expect Derrick Henry to be involved. He wasn't. The Ravens instead leaned on passing plays that didn't work. Drives stalled. Momentum killed. When asked about it post-game, Harbaugh didn't hold back. He didn't name Monken directly, but he didn't need to. He said it was play calling, that he wasn't happy with it, that maybe we just need better plays. And that phrase right there, that's all people needed to hear. Everyone knows who calls the plays. Everyone knows who he's talking about. It was clear as day. This was a public critique of Todd Monken. And then came Monday. If anyone thought Harbaugh might walk back some of those comments, or maybe soften his stance, think again. He doubled down, called out the play that led to Lamar's interception, saying it wasn't a good play call. Said the Ravens didn't give Lamar any checkdown options and basically set him up to fail. Again, no direct name drop, but you didn't need one. The message was loud and clear. This was on Monken. Now look, nobody's pretending the offense had a great day. It didn't. But here's the thing. This offense has been, overall, one of the few bright spots for the Ravens this season. Statistically speaking, they're number 1 in rushing, top 10 in passing efficiency, and they've put up serious points in several games. 2 games with 40+, another with 30. It's not like the offense has been a disaster. If anything, they've kept Baltimore in games. But the way Harbaugh went after the offense, and more specifically, Monken, didn't match the reality of how this team has played. It felt like he was trying to find a scapegoat for a bigger problem. Because yes, Todd Monken deserves criticism for some of the decisions on Sunday. But this loss, and this slide the Ravens are in, runs a lot deeper than that. And if you're going to call out Monken like that, how do you not turn that same energy to the other side of the ball? Because when you look at the defense, and we'll get into those numbers later, it's been bad. Like, bottom of the league bad. But when Harbaugh was asked about defensive coordinator Zach Orr, the tone completely changed. Now it was all about trust, confidence, how hard the coaches are working. He said, "I watch our guys every day. I know the soundness of what we're doing." That's the quote. Really? After what we've watched the last few weeks. He said he felt better watching the tape than he did live. That's almost unbelievable considering how the Chiefs were basically walking down the field for most of that game. Kansas City didn't even punt until the final minutes. They were ahead in every metric. Field position, 3rd down, red zone. The Ravens defense didn't make a statement stop all game. But somehow, that earned a pass? That's where the disconnect is. Harbaugh torched Monken for a handful of questionable calls in one game. But Zach Orr, the guy leading a defense that's near the bottom in almost every major category, from points allowed, to yards allowed, to 3rd down conversions. He gets a vote of confidence? The messaging here is not just inconsistent. It's backwards. And this isn't just about press conferences or sound bites. This is about leadership. This is about how you handle adversity inside a locker room. Because right now, the vibes around this team are bad. The Ravens look disjointed, frustrated, and confused. And when your head coach is delivering 2 completely different messages to 2 sides of the ball, it sends the wrong signal. It divides more than it unites. And look, maybe Harbaugh is just reacting emotionally. Maybe he's trying to light a fire under the offense and protect a young coordinator like Zach Orr. Maybe he thinks this is how you keep a team together. But it feels like the opposite is happening. Instead of accountability across the board, we're watching the head coach put the blame on one side and offer excuses to the other. And here's what makes it even more frustrating. John Harbaugh is not just a figurehead. He's not just standing on the sidelines clapping. He has a say in how this team operates, in how they prepare, how they game plan, how they adjust. If he doesn't like the play calling on 3rd and short, speak up. Say something in real time. Make a change. You're the head coach. If things are going off the rails, it's on you to fix it. That's why this whole situation feels off. Monken's not perfect, but it's wild to see him take the full brunt of this criticism when his unit has, for the most part, done its job this season. Meanwhile, the defense has been bleeding yards, failing in the red zone, and giving up big plays all year. And Harbaugh's answer is, yeah, I feel better after watching the tape. Come on. What kind of message does that send to the players? To the fans? To the rest of the coaching staff? Because if you're going to point fingers, if you're going to call out people by implication, then you better keep that same energy for everyone. Otherwise, it just looks like you're playing favorites. Or worse, like you're deflecting. And here's the reality. The Ravens are now in a pressure cooker. Injuries are piling up. The locker room looks tense. The offense is slipping. The defense is a mess. And the head coach? He's got to get a grip on this team before it spirals even further. This week against Houston is massive. A loss here, and things go from concerning to crisis. Now let's shift to the defensive side, and this is where things get even more confusing. Because if you watch the same Ravens defense that the rest of us did over the last few weeks, you know exactly how bad it's been. Statistically, it's one of the worst units in the league right now. They're near the bottom in points allowed, total yards allowed, third down defense, red zone defense. Pretty much every major category that defines whether a defense is functional or not, Baltimore is failing. But somehow, despite all of that, John Harbaugh didn't bring that same heat when talking about his defense. In fact, the tone couldn't have been more different. When Harbaugh was asked about defensive coordinator Zach Orr, he basically gave him a vote of full confidence. Said he trusts his coaches. Said he's in meetings every day, watching how they work, watching how they coach. He said he believed in the schemes and that what they're doing is sound. And that was the real head-scratcher. Sound. This defense hasn't looked sound for a second since week 2. It's been mistake after mistake, missed assignments, wide-open receivers, no pressure on the quarterback, and a complete inability to get off the field in critical moments. If this is what Harbaugh considers sound, then the standards have clearly dropped. He even said he felt better watching the tape than he did standing on the sideline. And again, you have to wonder, what tape was he watching? Because the Chiefs didn't punt until the final 3 minutes of that game. Mahomes had clean pockets. The Ravens were getting no pressure. The secondary was soft in coverage. Tackling was inconsistent. There were no splash plays, no takeaways, no game-changing moments. That performance was a breakdown in every possible way. And it wasn't just this game. It's been the same story for multiple weeks now. Against Detroit, against Cleveland, this unit has not looked like a Baltimore Ravens defense. And yet, no criticism, no harsh words, no frustration in the tone, just belief and optimism. And that's what doesn't sit right with fans. Because if you're going to slam the offense for struggling in one game, and again, Monken absolutely deserved some of that criticism, then how do you completely gloss over a defense that's been bad for almost the entire season so far? Look at the numbers. They're ranked last in points allowed per game, second worst in total yards allowed, bottom 5 in third down conversion rate, bottom 5 in red zone stops. The Ravens defense is getting carved up every single week, and instead of hearing accountability from the top, we're getting statements about how the issues are correctable or how young players stepped up. That might be true, but when it's week after week, it's not just a young player problem. It's a systemic problem. It's coaching. It's preparation. It's leadership. And as much as people might want to be patient with Zach or who's in his first year as DC, at some point, the performance speaks for itself. What made it worse is that Harbaugh even tried to shift some of the blame for the defensive struggles back on the offense. Said that bad offensive drives led to tough field position for the defense. That's true in some instances, but it also feels like a way to excuse the defensive breakdowns. Because even with some of those short fields, Kansas City had no trouble marching into the red zone and finishing drives. And the fact that Mahomes was barely pressured all game long had nothing to do with field position. That's on the defensive front not doing its job. And that's the issue here. It's not about one side being better than the other. It's about consistency in how you lead. You can't preach accountability to your offensive coordinator and players and then turn around and act like everything is fine on defense. Especially when it's not. It creates a split. It creates questions in the locker room. Guys notice that stuff. If the offense feels like they're getting singled out while the defense gets protected, it causes tension. And at a time when the Ravens are dealing with injuries, inconsistent performances, and rising pressure. The last thing they need is a divided locker room. That's why the messaging from Harbaugh has to be sharper. He can't just say, "We've been here before," or "We know how to fight through this." Because while that might be true, it's also the same narrative every year. The Ravens always seem to be in this position, dealing with major injuries, trying to find themselves in the middle of the season, clinging to potential instead of delivering on it. At some point, that cycle has to break. And that's on the head coach. Harbaugh said the team has to do what we have to do to win, and that the message will be practical. But here's the thing. Practical only works if you're willing to address the root problems, not just the convenient ones. Blaming play calling is easy. Saying the offense needs better execution is easy. What's hard is acknowledging that the defense, your defense, is failing badly. What's hard is admitting that maybe the game plan wasn't good enough, that maybe the team wasn't ready, that maybe the issues go deeper than a few missed assignments or bad calls. And none of this is about wanting to see a coach humiliated or dragged. It's about leadership. It's about transparency. When things are going wrong, fans and players want to hear truth, not PR spins or selective accountability. They want to know that the coaching staff is actually seeing what everyone else sees, that they're not just watching a different game on a different screen. And what Harbaugh said, and didn't say, over the past few days, made it sound like he's either out of touch with the actual problems or trying to protect certain people while throwing others under the bus. Neither of those options inspire much confidence. Meanwhile, the injury list is growing, and it's only making things harder. Nnamdi Matabike is out for the year. That's the Ravens' best pass rusher gone. Roquan Smith has a hamstring issue and might miss a couple of weeks. Marlon Humphrey is dealing with a calf injury. Lamar's status is still up in the air. These aren't depth pieces. These are core players, leaders, and their absence only puts more pressure on both the scheme and the execution. If anything, this is when you need stronger, more unified coaching. Not confusion, not mixed messaging, not playing favorites. The reality is, the Texans are coming to town next. C.J. Stroud and that offense have shown they're not to be taken lightly. This game is no walk in the park, especially with how the Ravens have been playing. And if they show up with the same lack of urgency, the same disjointed game plans, the same uneven coaching, it's going to get ugly. Fast. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. The NFL world is buzzing tonight as whispers grow louder about a potential seismic shift in the league's defensive landscape. According to a hot tip from CBS Sports, the Baltimore Ravens have reportedly secured KHALIL MACK, the perennial all-pro pass rusher whose presence alone can change the course of a game. While the deal hasn't been officially announced, sources close to the organization hint that Baltimore's front office has made a move that could cement the Ravens' front seven as one of the most feared units in football history. If MACK officially dons the purple and black, the implications are enormous. The Ravens, already known for their physical, relentless defensive front, would suddenly have a game-changing edge rusher to complement their existing stars. Imagine MACK wreaking havoc alongside the likes of Calais Campbell and Roquan Smith, a trio that could terrorize quarterbacks across the league. Analysts are already speculating that offensive coordinators will have to rethink their entire approach when facing Baltimore next season. Running backs may find no seam too small, and even the most disciplined pocket passers could see their confidence shaken from snap one. Rumors suggest the acquisition was quietly orchestrated over several weeks, with Baltimore offering a package that convinced MACK and his representatives that the Ravens are the ideal landing spot for a player of his caliber. Sources indicate that while other teams were interested, none could match the combination of defensive talent, coaching, and championship potential that Baltimore presents. Some insiders are even whispering about the ripple effect this could have on the AFC playoff race. A Ravens defense with MACK in the mix might be able to dominate even the league's top offenses. Fans are taking to social media, speculating about MACK's impact and sharing throwback clips of his game-changing plays. The excitement is palpable, with some already dubbing this potential front seven untouchable. While official confirmation is still pending, one thing is clear. The NFL landscape could be on the verge of a dramatic upheaval, and Baltimore appears poised to lead the charge. Keep your eyes on the Ravens. This could be the start of a defensive dynasty that will be talked about for years. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop with exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.